Hello and welcome to another episode. Now that John and I have all of our technical issues sorted out,
It's
everybody
been a
has
day.
those. It has been. One side can talk but not see, and the other one can see but not talk. I mean, it was just something. So here we are trying out a new browser this week, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so because it's we're coming into the holidays, we've kind of decided to try and keep it light and not go in too heavy. So John brought up the idea of talking about astral projection, which I must admit I haven't read a lot about. And if you are a listener, a regular listener, oh, by the way, if you're whether you're a regular listener or not, please reach down and hit that subscribe button.
Come on,
But
right? Come on.
I'm not the one reading the books. John is. So we've decided to have a little talk about astral projection and see. I mean, like, what is your idea of what it is? What do other people say about it? Do you think it's even possible? Which, of course, I think it's possible.
Sure.
Um, and just let's see where that takes us, because
Yeah.
who knows? It could be. It. I from what I understand, the guides have some input on this, so we'll see what they have
All
to
right.
say too.
Well, let me tell you my first introduction to it. And I was learning about it. I was very woo-woo curious, and this was back maybe early 2000s, I think. Before my journey, before my awakening. But I had read there's a novel, and it was a novel about a girl that was from American Indian descent, and she had learned how to do astral projection through her spirit guides that were her ancestors. But when she did the projection, there was an evil or a different spirit that landed in her body and took over her body, and she was out there as a spirit, but not able to connect back in. And I was like, that's absolutely the most terrifying thing I have ever read in my life.
And also impossible. But go
Exactly.
ahead.
Right. But see, for me, not knowing, yes, that's possible or no, it's not, I was reading that. I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm not even going to attempt to look.
Right. Like so kind of like when I opened the book on medical mediumship, and it said, and you'll be able to see inside person's body,
Right.
like inside their lungs. And I was like, that's it. I'm out. I don't
Yep.
want to know anything more about it. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, isn't it something that what the media does to what our
Yeah.
I
Yep.
what the human mind is susceptible to based on, because I think, and I think I believe this, that you hear them say that your mind doesn't really know what's true and what's not. So if you're reading a book, I mean, that's why I quit reading Stephen King, because my imagination is
Oh,
just
geez. Right.
far too freaking vivid, right?
Yeah.
But so I could see where that would be. I could see where that would be problematic, or make you not even want to like consider it, but also where it could deter a person from getting involved in the sort of woo woo world, right? Like
Yeah.
I have one friend who, she calls herself woo woo adjacent, which I think is adorable. She's like not quite there, but and I think, well, I don't know that she'd be susceptible to this, but at that time you were woo adjacent, right? You
Yep.
were you were
Very curious.
curious,
Yep.
you were open, but you hadn't really shoved
Yep.
over the
Yep.
edge.
And that
And
one novel, it wasn't even purporting to be true. It was a
true.
novel. It scared me.
Yeah, right? Of course it did. Of course it did. I mean, I'm still scared of clowns, for God's sake. Right? Like, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
anyway, okay, so astral projection.
So here's a question for you. Remote viewing, where people can like see areas through their minds, and astral projection, same or different?
Good question. Okay, let's see. Astral projection is a term used in esotericism to describe an intentional out of body experience assumes the existence of a subtle body. Okay, based on that, uh, when I began this when we were looking at this, and I said, "Oh, I don't really do that." Well, the truth is, I actually do it, and I just didn't know that's what I was doing.
Right.
Right? I
I think
do it
you're
a
good
lot.
at it, actually.
I do it all the time.
Right.
So, so I'm going to say remote viewing and astral projection, two different things.
Okay.
Because I think maybe in astral projection you choose where you're. Well, I guess how do I explain what I'm thinking here?
Maybe remote viewing is just kind of looking from afar at a
Mm.
different place and time, but astral projection is more participating, perhaps.
Yeah, right. Because you're not necessarily there as an observer. You're there as a participant, right? Where with remote viewing, you would be there as an observer. And
Right.
I think that don't they technically use remote viewing for I whenever I've heard of remote viewing, it's always been involved in like police investigations and the military and
Military.
things
Yep.
like that. The
Yep.
military was big for that. I don't think that I don't know though. I mean, I don't imagine they would actually tell us if they were still doing it, but which is interesting because if they did it whenever they did it, what was that, like the 50s or the 60s or something, 70s, they were doing
It
remote
was
viewing.
from the mid 50s until I think, early 90s, maybe late 80s.
And so the late 80s, early 90s is about 20 years, give or take, before this widespread connection that people have to their
Ah,
intuition and to the
sure.
connection. I mean, could that be like, how they say, don't give up right before the magic happens? Could that be one of those cases
Right.
in remote viewing
Well,
where they,
on the remote viewing stuff that was part of the government, it was shut down because it was, even though it was successful and did really cool stuff, there was so much, science pushback against it.
oh, that's true. I could see
And so the government was kind of forced to shut it down or admit that they were flakes, basically.
that.
And
Which is really sad.
it
I
is
mean,
very sad. But here's my guess. Here's my guess.
oh, I want to hear.
My guess is that they shut it down publicly and then went right down the back door and said, "All right, guys, we're going undercover. We're going to
Yeah.
call this like agribase."
Yeah,
And
right.
like,
Or Project Drive-In Theater.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I like yours better, right? And
right? Yep.
it's going to be in a a buried budget in a top secret department underneath the CIA, yada yada yada, right? So,
Yeah,
mm,
out at what is that? Oh man. That in that mountain in Colorado,
oh,
where the Stargate,
Yucca Mountain,
no, I would have to ask my husband, and I'm not going to go do that. So I know he would remember.
Area
Uh,
51.
no, no.
So yeah, while you're looking it up,
Cheyenne Mountain. Cheyenne Mountain.
Cheyenne. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and Cheyenne Mountain actually is a NORAD thing, Air
Right.
Force Space Command.
Okay.
It's a NORAD place, and that's where the Stargate is. Where you can go visit other places and what have you. So I don't know, maybe
Yeah. I
you
think it
know.
was never actually shut down. I think it was just
I agree with you.
moved
I
outside of
agree with you. I really
snooping.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some of those sort of conspiracy theory things that are just not possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it would
Yeah.
just take way too much. As an example, the flat Earth thing
Oh
with the
God.
Pac-Man effect.
Right.
Okay. I mean,
Right.
it would just take way too many people to keep that quiet, right?
Right.
People just don't have the capacity to keep
To
things
keep
quiet
secrets
like that,
en
right?
masse cannot be
Um,
done.
can't, I mean, although my favorite was that the Illuminati had a base inside the hollow moon. How do they get there? Like,
right. And trying to carry air around with them.
Right? Like, so anyway, all right. So anyway, so back to astral projection. Now I know, have you read other books on astral projection or just this novel or what, kind of
On
what's out there? What's
No, I read several books on remote viewing, and so even books that are kind of like, let me teach you how to do it. So I got halfway through that book. I don't know why I stopped. I think I got busy, but I did not read any more specifically on astral projection. Sounds like it should go on my list.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, I don't know what, I really don't know, like, books. I'm reluctant to, oh, I mean, you could just get this one, the Astral Projection Guidebook.
Okay, I may just do that.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Project 369. Project 369. The Key to the Universe. Evolved Consciousness. All right, then. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, it says mastering the art of astral projection.
yeah, right. Here's a astral projection, a guide on how to travel the astral plane and have an out of body experience, extrasensory perception.
Mhm.
Okay, so actually, do you remember? I actually remember having a couple out of body experiences long before I. Um, there's a couple of things I wonder about if it's not related to astral
Sure.
projection.
Yeah.
But long before, like way back in my early 20s and my teens, I had experiences, out of body type experiences, and I remember one in particular, and it was very bizarre. Like it was just, and I didn't go far. I stayed, in my room in the room that I was in, but I was sleeping, and I remember my body leaving, like my, I don't know, my soul, my astral. At the time, I didn't know what you would call it.
Right.
Now I would call it my etheric body. But I remember my etheric body leaving my physical body and finding its way with my back to the wall, and then me sliding up the wall and hanging at the top of the ceiling and just hanging there for a while, like looking down. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then, my physical body woke me up. So there's that. But
Sweet.
then I know it was crazy, right? Like, and I'll never forget it, like I forget everything, but I've
Yeah.
not ever
Some of
forgotten
those.
that.
Yep.
But I also wonder, and I'm not sure because it hasn't happened to me in a very long time, those dreams, or whatever you'd like to call them, where no matter what you do, you can't wake up.
Hmm.
That,
Yep.
like, no matter, you can't talk, you can't speak, you can't move, you can't wake up. You're like
Right. You're
paralyzed.
you're aware of something, but you are
Exactly.
immobile.
And completely. And like, it's like, you have to like really fight to bring what it feels like to me is that you're fighting to bring your physical body and your ego, and your
Right.
etheric body back
Back
together
together.
so that you can, maneuver.
Yep.
But I discovered, um, I don't know how exactly, but I discovered it didn't happen to me if I slept on my side. It only happened to me if I slept on my back.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. I really did. So now I would say it's been, 30 years since I slept on my back.
I'm
Now
gonna test
I don't
that.
want to test it out again. I don't know what happened. Because it was happening a lot, and I started putting two and two together and spotting the pattern. And the pattern was it didn't happen to me if I was sleeping on my side, but it did happen if I was sleeping on my back. So I just finally said, well, okay. Yeah, all right, I get it.
Okay,
because
so
it's not a
let me
fun
feed a little
experience.
more. Let me give add a little more interesting material to this. Whenever I'm in that state between awake and sleep where you can kind of participate in your dreams,
Yep, like that state. Yep.
yep, that's always when I'm sleeping on my back. Whenever I'm sleeping on my side, I basically just wake up. And
Oh, interesting.
so, hmm,
That is it. So I mean that kind of says that
the orientation.
but it can't follow because I go to that place. I enjoy that place, and I never sleep on my back. So
Okay.
it's got to be an individual thing, but the orientation certainly it would seem based on
Yeah.
our multitude of wisdom, the two of us, um, that it would have some impact on it. Boy, listeners, if you got this far, if you have any input on this particular subject, if you have anything that happens to you while you're sleeping and you have a notice, if you're on your back or on your side or whatever, please drop
Mhm.
it in the comments
Yep.
and let us know, because
Yep.
that would be fascinating to
Very.
fascinating to hear about. In fact, this kind of subject right here, this astral projection and remote viewing and things, might be kind of fun for sort of a roundtable discussion, to
Oh,
hear from
yeah.
other people,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
but I don't know. So in the beginning, when I say the beginning, it's not all that long ago, when I really started to focus in on how to get my energy under control and all of that.
Yep.
um I think I've mentioned before, I did these exercise classes that always ended with a shavasana at the end,
Hmm.
even so they had some piece of yoga in them, or it was a yoga class. And there was just this one that was yoga, tai chi, and pilates combined together. Amazing teachers with amazing music, and that's where I discovered that Annie Lennox
Oh,
piece.
sweet. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just an amazing piece, and the frequency of that is just like, right.
Yeah.
um but that is where some of the first, I guess I would say, astral projections I managed to do. I did that without conscious thought or without thinking about it, but that I saw, I didn't actually meet her for some years, but I saw Miranda
Hmm.
many, many times. And Miranda is one of my guides.
Hmm.
If you don't, if you're new, and I saw her, and every time I went, every time I listened to the song, I saw her in there. The
Sweet.
same long red hair, and the same face, and the same, like, surroundings. She was in the
Yep.
same surroundings. And it took me a long time, a couple of years, to actually figure out who she was. But what's even more interesting is that I have done sessions with her, group sessions where um, I've done like a group cord cutting session, and I've
Yep.
done some other sessions with groups where she's come in and done the healing. And I never, I mean, now I've spilled, right? Now I've spilled what she looks like. But in the past, I never said what I saw her as, because I believe that, you and I could see the same guide and it would look different,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
how we each translate. But every person that actually got a glimpse of her said she's this beautiful, tall, long red hair. You could tell she's Gaelic or Celtic, or,
Mm.
I
Hmm.
mean, and it was everybody said the same thing,
That's cool.
which I thought was really kind of interesting. So, uh, astral projection, I believe that's what that is.
Yeah.
So here's something I
Okay.
think, and I'd love to hear what you think. A lot of people that don't understand it or don't do it, or maybe that do it, I don't know, might think that, and how do I put this? For me, that was easy to kind of slip into because I didn't make a big deal out of it. That was not my intention. I didn't plan. to astral project. And even when I go and I create places and meditations, I guess that is astral projection. It seems like that is to me. But do you think that some people who are attempting it, or feel like they can't do it, they've tried it and they can't, do you think they make it too complicated for themselves instead of just sort of relaxing into it and surrendering to the energy
Yeah, I
and
think that
setting an
happens.
intention?
Right. It's like I'm trying to force myself to sleep. No,
Right.
right? When you are thinking, trying to make something happen, that's the exact opposite of what you need to do.
Right. Nothing is going to happen,
Right,
right? Like,
right. So, that's true with meditation too. Like, I'm trying to meditate. No, no, you're not. Yeah, well, it's not going to happen. So I think, yeah, to your point, people are making it too hard because they're doing it up here instead of down here.
yeah, right, right. And it's really, isn't that funny how we all like have this feeling about where things are,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, that big
up
major
here,
silver
down
cord is right
here, or
part.
trying to go into the sky, when actually everything is all right here anyway,
Hmm.
right? But I did I don't want to tell too much of the story, but the time that I was in that sound meditation. So in that sound meditation, his name is Preston Click. Look him up, Klik. Look him up. He's amazing. And if you're local and you can find a way to attend one of his sound meditations, you need to do it. I'll try to remember to put his name in the description of the video. But he is such a talented sound healer, and every time I go to one of his events, I see something, I find something, I discover something. And what I won't tell the exact story of what was going on, but um I one thing I noticed, that I could get into it, and then I would, be seeing this story or seeing what was something that's happening, and I would be elsewhere. Like he's taken me all kind of some places I didn't want to go, but it was good for me to go. But what I noticed is that, when a baby is learning how to walk, like they're 11 months old, 12 months old, they're learning how to walk, and you leave them in a room by themselves for a few minutes, and they get up and they walk, but then when you walk back into the room, they realize you're watching them and they fall down right away.
Yeah,
That sort of phenomenon. Well, I
right.
noticed that if I could fully surrender and just go along with the program, I would be able to see the vision. I would be able to interact with the vision. I would be able to, be an observer or whatever. But if my mind or my ego would catch on, then all of a sudden I would
Like,
like
aha, uh-oh.
jar out of it,
Right.
and
Yep.
now, and then there was no going back.
And I think that's the practice, which
Yeah,
staying in that neutral state. I think that's
right.
what people get better at
Yep.
as you do it more and as you kind of figure out how not to think.
Yeah, right. Well, and the truth is that, you're on the floor in a room that's got, 28 or 30 other people surrounding you. So you have to be able to make yourself comfortable in that situation, which I can. People can't get all up in my energy like they try, some of them do, um sometimes I think if you don't physically or consciously set the intention to put yourself in that neutral state before
Mhm.
you start, that's where you get caught up and you get sort of jarred out of it, I think.
Hmm.
I
Interesting.
I I, I think you can go anywhere you want to go, don't you think?
Yeah. Yep.
Like
I think,
where would you like to go?
well, do I get to pick space or time or both?
I think you could do I think you can go wherever you want. I
Yeah.
really do. I mean, I think that I think that people are connected to certain energetic
Hmm.
matrices, whatever.
Matrices. Yeah.
Um and that you can go there. I mean, I've taken people to uh, through the through the exercise to create a space for them to go in and meditate and have conversations with guides or teachers or
Hmm.
angels or what, whatever. So that is it completely created, or are you accessing something that's already there? I don't know.
I think
But
it's,
I
I
think
think that's where it starts.
I do too. I do too. I think you have to have a jumping off point. But then, I mean, do you want to connect to the energy of, for example, I took somebody to meet King Kamehameha.
Hmm.
That was cool,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so, oh, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, I'm going to say this, then I'm going to let you have your thoughts. When I do that, right? When I work with somebody, and I mean, for this person, King Kamehameha literally presented himself like, I need to be here. This is something that needs to happen. I have information, because I'm in that sort of container, right, with this other person
Hmm.
doing the work. But then when I lead them through the meditation, I do it while sending energy. So I am guiding you through an experience, sending energetic support, and that helps keep the distraction from happening,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, if I was going to take you somewhere and you said, I want to go, I don't know, let's see. I want to go into the middle of the ocean. I'd probably tell you no, because that is not a place I want to go,
Hmm.
right? Like, it's just not somewhere I want to be, the middle of the ocean. No, thank you. Um, But if you want to go there yourself and you set yourself up into neutral state, okay, yeah. All right. So now I'm going to let you, where would you like to go?
Okay.
And then I'm going to, like, how about this? Where would you like to go? And then we'll see how to tell you how to get there. And then you can do it. And then next episode, you can tell us how it was.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I think that'll be fun.
One of
Okay.
the things I would like to experience is like seeing the earth from above. So the kind of the element of flying. And
Oh, okay. Like looking down from the moon, or from
yeah,
from the from orbit or
yes,
something.
right.
Yeah,
The,
why? Yeah, there's no reason you can't do
the
that.
flyover. So that's one of the things I've always thought would be really, really cool. And
Okay.
then,
Okay, wait. Let's stay with that one for a minute. So I want to see what you. I want to see, because I know what I just saw. So I want to see where you are compared to what they showed me.
okay.
What? So so in other words, you close your eyes. You want to see the Earth from a bird's eye view,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
What do you need to do in order? In other words, what does it, draw a picture of that? What does that look like?
Sure. Okay. So how I would do it is I would say, okay, I'm in a meditative state and I'm
No,
going
no,
to,
don't go through the mechanics. Just tell me the picture of what it looks like. Like what state are you in? What are you wearing? Are you inside something like that?
okay. So I would be sitting maybe in my house and um, imagining rising up further and further.
Okay,
And so kind of seeing my house getting smaller and smaller.
there you go.
And then I'm seeing like, oh, I'm seeing my city. Now I'm seeing the whole state. Now I'm seeing the country and like, oh, here we are. That's what I want. That's the, that I,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you why they had me ask it that way, because they wanted to know if you would put yourself inside of, say, an airplane or something,
Hmm.
which they want you to know that you don't need to do that,
Okay.
right? Like, that was interesting how that, and I don't know if that was for you or if it was maybe for somebody that was listening. If in other words, there's no limits,
Right. You don't need a
right?
tool. You don't need a
You don't
tool.
right, and you don't need, like you separate from your physical body, as long as your physical body is anchored, right, to
Yep.
where you are sitting, and that's important. your spirit can, and we'll just use that word, your spirit can soar. It doesn't need air, it doesn't need breath. You could fly into fire, you could fly into, I don't want to fly in water. I don't care. I just
Not
don't
your
want to do
thing.
it. Not my thing. But you could fly into the northern lights. You could
Mm,
do anything, right? You could do all of it. Now, if if you had never ever seen any kind of images of what that looked like from above, what how do you think that would work? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, we're so spoiled with our ability to do that with satellites.
right. But I think that's helpful.
Yeah. I think if I had never let's move us back, 1,000 years or 500 years when they didn't have the technology, the ability to kind of see other places and go other places was, I think it was a lot more face to face. I don't know if it was, or maybe it was, oh, I know what it was. They would talk about being a bird because that was the embodiment of that idea, is becoming a bird.
Wow. See, and that would be like perfect, right? Like that would be exactly what you'd want to do. You'd want to be a bird because the bird can fly. The bird's got wings. The
Yep, the
bird,
bird has that, well, proverbial bird's eye view.
right. And even still, if you wanted to go further up, and outside the atmosphere, the bird doesn't have limitations, right?
Hmm.
So uh you could still do that. I think it would be so fun to try. I mean, I go all kinds of places in meditation. I never really considered that it was astral projection
Hmm.
before, but now that I think about it, I mean, what else would you call it? And I go all kinds of places. Like
Yeah.
I create places. I have healing spaces that I've created. I have a crystal mountain that I go
Hmm.
to visit the Akashic record. That's where
Okay.
I made
Sweet.
my uh I believe those things are easier to access if you create something that your physical and your mind, your actual human mind can like recognize or
Right.
understand.
Right. It puts you in the state of like, now I'm going to be doing this. Well, that means I'm going to go to my Akashic Records Crystal Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. I go up the stairs and I go through the door, and there's all the books and the giant table that's got, the one that I'm looking for laid out on it. Um, that's how I see it.
Hmm.
Other people see the Akashic record as a tapestry. Some
Okay.
people see it as a library.
Yeah,
Some
I've heard
people see
library.
it as a database. Some people. I worked with somebody who he had an actual computer room, like he was able to access his stuff through computers because
Oh,
that was
cool.
how he liked to
Yep.
process things. So
Hmm.
because always intuition is how you connect to receive and interpret energy,
Right.
and you have to interpret energy using signs and signals and symbols that your human mind can understand.
Right.
So what I see could be different than what you see.
Yep.
So I'm always okay with that. I'm also astonished when people come up with the same thing.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
I've been in group meditations where everybody comes out and they say, "Yeah, and I have a key in my hand," or
Right.
something of that nature. So is that is is that what most people think of as astral projection? What do you think most people would call astral projection? Like,
I
what do
think
they
most
think it
people
is?
confuse astral projection and remote viewing. Um, I'm going to go over here to my friend's house and watch what he's having for dinner, right?
Yeah, why would you want to do that?
The mundane, right? I'm going to go spy on my
Well,
friend.
okay, now that's interesting. Um, just that sort of, okay, let's see. Many people often confuse. Okay, I may not be able to read this whole thing because I'm on some kind of membership site or something. Many people often confuse remote viewing and astral projection using the two terms interchangeably.
Hmm.
This seemingly small misconception, this is a seemingly small misconception, but it can effectively muddle the distinctions between the two practices.
Hmm.
What these people fail to understand is that RV and AP have essential differences. If you want to clear up some confusion about these two, then read on. I'm gonna just try to. Here we go. The most important point of comparison between remote viewing and astral projection is both are types of out of body experiences.
Okay.
Both have also been investigated thoroughly by the CIA through the Stargate project. Okay, is this really a real thing? Am I really the
That's the
Stargate
name of the
project?
program. That's the name of the program.
I know. Oh, so there was an actual for real Stargate project? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a Stargate fan, right?
Nope. It's a
Like the
real thing.
TV show Stargate,
No,
right?
this is the real one.
Um, okay, so in both, they project their consciousness to reach a particular plane of existence. Okay. The vital distinction is the application of consciousness projection. In remote viewing, practitioners project their consciousness to the earth plane, giving it the nickname earth projection. Astral projection, on the other hand, is the projection of consciousness onto the astral plane. Oh, now that's interesting. It says, seems simple, right? Not quite. Earth plane is simply the physical world that our bodies are placed in. The colors, sounds, and objects we experience using our physical bodies are what our projected consciousness goes through as well. In short, it's exactly the world we know that we and experience. So I think that you have it, right? Like based on what I'm reading here.
Sure.
I think I mean, so remote viewing is here and it's utilitarian and
Yep.
it's useful,
Yep.
but it's here on the physical plane.
Yeah.
And astral projection is on the astral plane, which is an entirely different thing.
Huh.
And um interesting that they were both investigated by the CIA
I
and the
did not know
Stargate
the second
project.
one was. I did not know that.
Yeah, me either. I didn't know. I mean, I knew about remote viewing because I remember seeing those pictures of the people in the rooms with,
Yep.
all lined
Yep.
up and
Yep.
whatever.
There's a guy, Joseph something or other, that has a course that everybody loves. He's a well-known teacher of this.
Oh yeah, right. I can't think of his name, but
McEngle or McDingle or something like
some
that.
I like that McDingle. Okay. Yes, so interesting. So, okay, so people take remote viewing. I guess we're quickly running out of time, but I want to get this one last thought out and see what you think. Um, People find value in remote viewing. I think that, people, police departments and things like that might still be doing some of
Yep.
that as well.
Yep.
And I do agree with you that I don't think the program was ever shut down. What is the point of astral projection?
I think it's another way to meet your guides.
I 100% agree with that. Absolutely. I mean, I think you can meet anybody up in there.
Yeah.
That's where the train is. Oh yeah, right, Matthew. That's exactly where the train is. The train is in the astral plane. It's an astral train, right?
That's
Like,
and he's the conductor.
and he's the conductor. But people they've met loved ones, they've met spirit guides, they've met angels, they've
Mm,
met all kinds of.
this
When
is
I created the attunement process for empowered chakra reiki, it was a train ride with Matthew, of course, and Archangel Uriel, and then the god Ether. It's
sweet.
the light of God and the god of light, like the two of them, and it was on the train. That's in the astral plane, right? Like, okay. So it's interesting. For me, I'm like, what's so hard about that? Like, or what's so But I wonder how many people have read things like that novel you were talking about, and so they're afraid of it,
Right. Or just
right?
confused, or it sounds so fantastical that how could this be true?
How could it be true,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'm sure that Neil deGrasse Tyson would tell you, no, it's not true. You just have a vivid imagination, but it's too visceral.
Hmm.
I don't,
Yep.
and I really appreciate him as an astrophysicist and as a sensible person,
Hmm.
calm, cool, and collected, but he and I disagree on some things.
Right. Well, if the only world you believe in is what your five senses tell you, then you got a lot of explaining to do. Like, how does psychic mediumship work? And the
Well, no,
only
but it
answer,
doesn't work.
right, the only answer they can come up with is they deny.
Right,
It's the only
exactly.
possible answer they can have.
Right. That's like I watched an episode of um it
Skeptics.
was well, Penn and Teller,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
non-magicians, right?
Right.
Like they really are non-magicians. Like you go to their shows, they basically are telling you how it works.
Yep.
It's a fantastic show. They're great fun, but I remember Penn saying there are no dead people hanging around, and there is no one that can communicate with dead people. And you know, unless it's 100% contrived, I've been in the audience of mediums.
Hmm.
I mean, they would have to plant every single person that they've interacted with.
Which is just
You know what I mean?
right.
Which
You
is
can't,
just
right. You can't keep
it's
that
the
kind of a secret.
no, right. It's the whole conspiracy theory thing, right?
Exactly.
Like there's just not the effort it would take to keep that up is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So uh, you know what? But believe what you want to believe, right?
Right.
Let
We're not
them
here to
believe what
convince
they want to
anyone.
believe.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I will say that once I started to really make these connections and to really understand how I connected to this and how I felt about this, those people with their the world is going to end things
Yeah.
really stopped terrorizing me because I was terrorized by that,
Yeah.
when I was younger in my early, in my 20s. Because every time you turned around in the 80s, somebody was saying the freaking world was going to end. Like
Right. Right.
it was
When I heard
1984
those,
and 1987 and blah.
when I heard those, my immediate thought was, he has some information that I don't have. How did he, and I would be kind of taken in by, he must have learned something. Maybe he found a secret scripture or right. And so you wonder, how did they get this great knowledge? And now looking back, you realize, oh, they were either making it up or they got some download from the other side, but then contorted it. Um,
Well, I mean, okay, that's okay. Well, let's take just a couple of more minutes because I think you just snuck onto an important point there. He got a download. He, she, they, whatever, got a download from the other side and contorted it. Everything that you get from the other side has to go through your filter, which
Indeed.
is completely made up of whatever is happening in your ego. So
Hmm.
if your ego is filled with fear and judgment and I don't know, hate, whatever things you
Right.
want to put, then that information is going to come out polluted. Somebody gave an example of if you have a garden hose that lays on the ground, and when it rains, it fills up with water and it gets all filled up with dirt and, right? Like it's just laying there. When you turn on the garden hose, the water starts out beautiful and clear, but as it goes through that hose, when it comes out on the other end, it's all murky and dirty. It's the same thing.
Hmm.
So I think you really hit on something like, I mean, there are very big channeled works out there that have come through filters that maybe were tainted by things like fear
Hmm.
and judgment, fear and hooray for me, too bad for you,
Right.
which is a big freaking problem right now in this country. But I
Yeah.
digress. Anyway, so
Boy, we could keep going because I got like
I
three or
know.
four others like points that,
I
but
I
we
know.
gotta do
Good
this.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is almost we've been trying to keep it to 40 minutes. We went a little over, but this is a fun
Yeah, I
conversation.
know. This is good stuff.
So I think everybody should try.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is invite neutral state, right? Release assumption, judgment, self-doubt, and fear. You don't even need to be particularly and like like I do energy work, right? Like when I do that, I sit in energy when I do that. But you can connect to the energy whatever way works for you, right? Big deal, neutral state.
Mm-hmm.
Close your eyes and just decide where you want to go. Start small, right?
Yeah.
Start small. Just see a room, decorate it in a way that you would like it. See two big, giant, fluffy chairs sitting across from each other, and then sit down in one and invite whoever
Hmm.
might like to communicate with you to sit down in the other. It may be a guardian angel or a guide. I every now and then invite Nikola Tesla, because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just commune with the energy. Just commune with the energy of that. And it may be a conversation. It may, if you don't have the capacity at this point to have a conversation, just sit in the energy, pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Just
What
listen.
does it feel
Hmm.
like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What are the other things that you see? What's in the room? Is there a book? Is there something on the wall? Is there a window and you see something go by? Really take this as an exercise to really start making these connections. And the next thing you know, you do that, and then all of a sudden you find a door and you can get up and you can walk out the
Hmm.
door and you can turn around and you can look at what the place looks like. And then now you find out what the place looks like. How many stories is it? Is it a house? Is it a cottage? Is it a cave? Is it a museum? And then what are the surroundings like? Is it near water? Is it on a mountain? I mean, there's so many
Mm-hmm.
places that you could go with it. That to me is astral projection, and why wouldn't you want to do
Right. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
it? Wow. Oh, I have to admit, John, I wasn't sure because I haven't really read up on it, but I think this was a really amazing
Me too.
conversation.
Yeah, this is fun.
Thank you so much for this idea. I mean, my
Good.
goodness.
I'm glad it was a good one.
Yeah, it was really great. So that's it today, folks. Sorry that we took you over. I hope you stayed with us this long, and if you did, gratitude, thank you. And in this, we're coming up here. This episode will be released after Gratitude Day, but please, accept our heartfelt thanks for sticking with us and
Yeah.
coming along for the ride. We really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please reach down and hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it.
Yep.
Um, Other than that, well, John, everybody knows we record this early, so I'm going to say happy Thanksgiving to you.
To you too.
And to everybody that's listening, we hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and happy holidays, for the rest of the year. Awesome. All right. We'll see you next week. And next week, if all goes well, we'll have Katie that channels the druids back.
Oh, good. 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 Good.
So if that all goes well, we planned that out quite a while ago. So, we'll make sure that that will work, and that would be a lot of fun. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the other side.